Hare Krishna. Okay, welcome everyone back to chapter 8. The chapter name for this chapter is called Attaining the Supreme, and the acronym for this chapter is DEAD. So before we start, let's pray. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so let's start. Story so far. So, what's been happening in the Gita so far? So, in the last chapter, if you look at the text number 29 and 30, Krishna has introduced many new terms which confuse Arjuna regarding the context in which they are to be understood. So, since the Gita is like a question and answer type of format, there's a new chapter is always prompted by the discussion that has taken place in the previous chapters or chapters. Yeah. So in this chapter 8, Krishna had ended chapter 7 by introducing like 8 terms. And Arjuna is like, okay, what are these terms that you are saying? So out of 8 of them, Krishna explains 7 of them very fast, and then he takes one of them and expands that theme for the rest of the chapter. Okay? So Krishna also mentions that those who are intelligent, they think of him at the time of death. And so this sets the scene for the beginning of the 8th chapter, whereby Arjuna asks for clarity. So Krishna will answer most of the doubts quickly, but he will spend the rest of the chapter dedicating to answering one of the questions of Arjuna, and that is, how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So, not hard to understand, but the theme of this chapter is about death. So, death is the most uncomfortable reality that one will face in life. So, now we know that there are 4 fundamental problems in life, and these fundamental problems everyone goes through. These are BODY. If you have a body, you have these 4 fundamental problems: birth, old age, disease, and Yamraj, meaning death. Okay. Now, I did a quick Google study, and was a very interesting statistics that 72% of people in the world, they die without a will because they never thought that death would come to them. So, in this regard, there's a really nice story of King Yudhishthir Maharaj, and he was asked, what is the most amazing thing that is there in the world? And so in the Mahabharata, there's this particular verse that Yudhishthira Maharaj says. He says, Ahani hani bhutani gachantida yamalayam shesha sthavaram ichanti kim ascharyam atha param. And this goes like this. Hundreds and thousands of living entities meet death at every moment, but a foolish living being nonetheless thinks himself deathless and does not prepare for death. This is the most wonderful thing in the world. So this is Yudhishthira Maharaj saying that. Even the Dalai Lama, he had a very nice quote. He was asked what surprised him most about humanity. And he answered, men. Men surprises me the most. Because he sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he's so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. And the result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he's never going to die, and then dies having never really lived. Yeah. So even in India, if you go to like this Banaras and all these places, there are yogis who are meditating on the banks of the funeral pyres because it helps them to contemplate on the ultimate reality of life. That the ultimate end is that we are all going to go from this world. So that's why you have many Indian yogis. They are meditating on such places. Even in Latin America, during special occasions, they will hang skulls on their doorsteps to remind them of the unavoidable reality. So all this may sound to be very morbid, like no one wants to talk about it. But actually it is a sign of wisdom, sanity, and maturity to take the time to contemplate about death. In chapter 8, Krishna will deal with the subject matter death, meaning how to prepare for it, what happens at that fateful moment, and then what lies beyond it. Okay? So the acronym is DEAD. D stands for doubts, E stands for end of life, A stands for attaining the supreme, and then D stands for devotion. Okay? So doubts. So now, if you've looked at if you've been a parent, you have a child, the child asks so many questions. Why? Why this? Why that? Why this? Why that? And so even Einstein has said that curiosity has its own reason for existing. So the reason why when we grow up, we stop asking why when we grow up, or we stop searching for the answers because of two things. One, we are frustrated by the shallow answers that are given, and because we don't think that there's anything more to this, we start to give into mindlessly accepting the flow of life. But whenever we have doubts, they should be cleared by asking questions. Their doubts are actually compared to be like demons. If you don't kill them, they will eventually kill your spiritual life because they make you think that spirituality is a waste of time. Okay? There's a very famous Chinese proverb that says, "The one who asks remains a fool for a minute, one who doesn't remains a fool forever." And if you think about it, all our main scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, these are all in the question and answer format. Because it's when a person is being questioned, it gives an opportunity for deeper contemplation and deeper understanding to surface. Yeah? So thus Arjuna begins the chapter to clear up some doubts, and Krishna welcomes his questioning. At no point has Krishna ever refuted Arjuna when he's asking a question. Yeah, he's never said, "Ah, you're so dumb, I have to repeat the same thing to you." No, he doesn't say that. He's always welcoming Arjuna's questioning because this is also a sign of intellect. Okay? So, just as a quick overview, we will not focus too much on this, but these are the 8 terms that Krishna has introduced in 729 and 730. What is Brahma, Adhyatma, Karma, Adibhuta, Adideva, Adiyagna, and Prayana Kale. Arjuna's confusion in this context is like, does Brahma mean soul or does it mean super soul? So Krishna replied, no, soul it means Brahman, but then the super soul is Para Brahman, is the ultimate. Adhyatma, what is the self? Is it the body, mind, and soul? Is called Atma, and what is its nature? And Krishna says the nature of the soul is to be an eternal servitor of the Supreme, but in material consciousness, he thinks himself the Lord. Karma means fruitive activity or spiritual activity. And Krishna says that these are activities that lead to the development of material bodies, meaning material activities. Adibhuta means, is it gross objects like things or is it the gross body? And he says it's actually the gross body which goes through 6 changes: birth, growth, reproduction, stays for a while, dwindles, and then finally dies. These are the six changes that happen in a body. And so the physical nature is known as Adibhuta. Then Adideva, is it the demigod or the Virat Purusha? Krishna says it's the Virat Purusha, Rupa, form of the Lord. Adiyagna, who and where is it located? Meaning, who is the identity of the ultimate enjoyer of sacrifice? And Krishna says it's the super soul who is located in the heart of every living entity. And then the final is Prayana Kale. How can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? And this is where now the rest of the chapter will go on. We'll focus on this last one, Prayana Kale. Okay? So E stands for end of life. So does everyone have a copy of the Bhagavad Gita with them? Or on the phone even? Okay? So, Krishna gives a general law of death. Now, I want every one of you to repeat after me the Sanskrit of this verse. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam त्यजति अन्ते कलेवरम् तं तं एवति कौन्तेय सदा तद्भावभाविता. Anyone wants to volunteer to read the translation?
Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail.
Right. So, the Sanskrit word that I've highlighted here is called Smaran Bhavam. Okay? Meaning remembrance in the state of Bhava. Okay? State of Bhava. Now, I want all of you for 1 minute, close your eyes and think of a person who is not in your life currently or someone that you have lost touch with. Everyone, close your eyes for 1 minute. Just close your eyes. So think of a person in your who is not in your life currently or someone you have lost touch with. Just by thinking of that person, what sort of memories flood your mind? Just remember and take mental note of it. Okay? For 1 minute, guys. Okay, guys. Now, anyone wants to volunteer? What is the first thing that came to your mind about this person? What's the first? Yes, question. Sorry? Happy, playful moments. Okay. Anyone else? Yes. Greatness and simplicity. Then what else?
His presence in our life.
Presence in our life. But okay, this person not there. So what about the presence of the life? What in particular? Like what are you thinking about?
Like memories with him.
Memories with him. Okay. What sort of memories?
Good memories.
Good memories. Okay, that's there.
Childhood days.
Childhood days. Oh wait, no one actually thought of their name. Has anyone not thought of their name of that person?
Yes.
Yeah? So first of all, you remember the name of that person, right? What else? How many of you remember how that person looked like? Appearance. What else? Anything else? Nature. Okay. What else?
His form.
His form. Oh, it's in here. What else? Personality. Okay? Now, I want you to ask yourselves, why did you remember them in your minds right now, and why not some celebrity or some other famous person? I'm quite sure that all of you thought of somebody who was close to you.
Personal connection.
Yes. Yeah. So whenever we think of people, there are four main categories that we can think them of. The first one is their nama. Next is their roop. Then we have third one, which is gun, and the last one is their leelas or their activities. Okay? So these broadly fall into these four categories: Nama, Rupa, Guna, and Leela. And the reason why you had thought about this person and is maybe I don't know him, maybe he's not somebody famous, worldwide famous that all of us know. You might think of somebody and I might not know that person, but that guy is very important to you because there is a personal connection. So our heart naturally remembers the object of our greatest attachment. Okay? When we start to think about somebody, we only think about that person because we have a personal connection with that person. Yeah? So the remembrance can be of many types. Okay? The first type of thing is a factual remembrance. Okay, if I tell you, okay, who is the first president of the United States of America? If you've learned history, you know this. Factually, it's this and this person. Then then there is rational or intellectual remembrance. If I tell you, okay, what is the proof of this and this? What is the proof of what is the Pythagoras theorem? Yeah? What is the Pythagoras theorem? By a squared plus b squared equals c squared. But does that really help? No. And the last part is a personal remembrance. Okay? And bhavam refers to this type of remembrance. It remembers to personal remembrance. There is emotion, there is the heart investment in that, there is a heart connection there. So this is what Arjuna was thinking, okay, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. So he said, okay, I mean I can just think of Krishna at the time of death. Really, is that how easy it is? What type of remembrance are we talking about here? Huh? What type of remembrance? Remembrance in the mode of bhava. Bhava means personal. How are you going to remember a personal relationship? What needs to happen for you to be able to remember a personal relationship? Personal investment. Does that happen right at the end of life? And when does that happen? Throughout your life. You have to cultivate a personal relationship throughout your life so that your mind and your heart is naturally attached to that person. Yes or no? Yeah. So people look at this verse and be like, okay, we can cheat Bhagwan. We can say, okay, Bhagwan says, whatever you remember the end of life, you will attain the thing. So I said, okay, I can do all sort of nonsense throughout my life, and at the end I'll just remember Krishna and I will attain that. But no, the type of remembrance that we need is not say smaram, factual smaram. It's not saying smaram, rational smaram. It says smaram bhavam, which is personal remembrance. Okay? So again, Arjuna might think that might not be so bad. I can just think of Krishna when the time of death comes. I don't need to fight. So Arjuna thinks he can cheat just by thinking of Krishna at the end of life. However, do you think Bhagwan is not clever enough? Do you think Bhagwan has left a loophole here? No. When death comes, our remembrance will automatically go where it has found or experienced the greatest shelter. For example, when there is a storm, where do we go and try and find shelter if there's a big storm coming? Huh?
Shed.
In the shed?
Like under something.
Underground, basement, yeah? Because we know that if storm comes, the top of the house can go away, but basement is secure, right? Because we naturally run towards that because there's danger. We naturally go to places where we think we will get the greatest shelter. Yeah? And that greatest shelter will reflect our greatest attachment, the object of our greatest love. Therefore, it is extremely important that during life we cultivate our love for Krishna so much such that at the time of death, Krishna is a person of our greatest love. So people say, oh, you just keep on chanting God's names, God's name. There's a difference. There's utterance of Krishna's name, and then there's remembrance of Krishna's name. When you just utter, your mind is not there. So if your mind is not there, if you're not emotionally invested in it, where is the connection being built? So we don't just utter God's names, we chant God's names because there is an emotional investment that's being made there. Yeah? So, and actually I've got a personal story to say on this matter. When I was in the UK and I had gone to an event and His Holiness Sachinanda Swami was there, and he had given us an instruction of sorts, and we asked him that how can we maintain ourselves in Krishna consciousness, how can we stay focused in this movement, and he gave a very nice instruction, and he said that you have to find an experience in Krishna consciousness that becomes so deep that you come back to it over and over again. So what he's trying to tell us is that you have to feel that Krishna is the greatest shelter. Because if you find that Krishna is your greatest shelter, naturally when there is some sort of upheaval, some sort of difficulty in life, our automatic thought goes where? It goes to Krishna, or Krishna will look after me. Krishna will be there for me. So this is what he was trying to say. You have to find an experience in your life which makes you convinced yourself. No amount of philosophy, no amount of intellectual stimulation, nothing compares to emotional investment. Because when we are really in need, where do we turn to? Even grown-up men, when they are in difficulty, who the first thing they remember? Mummy. Why? Because mom has given them the greatest sort of shelter during their childhood times. Right? Okay. So point is, we can't cheat Krishna in this. So that 3 scenarios that I want to show you, and you tell me what is the end of this thing. Yeah. So scenario number 1. So the whole life you have remembered Krishna, and at death you remember Krishna. What happens after death? What do you think happens? Yes, you go back to Krishna. Simple. Number 2. Your whole life you have remembered Krishna, but at death there was a tragic death, sudden death, and so you don't remember Krishna. What happens here?
Krishna remembers you.
Huh?
Krishna remembers you.
Krishna, yeah. So again, you go to Krishna because you have remembered Krishna throughout that life. Now number 3. The whole life haven't remembered Krishna, but at death somehow remembered Krishna. What happens here? Huh? Get a second chance? Go to Krishna? What else? How many of you think goes to Krishna?
That's incomplete Krishna consciousness. So maybe you will get a bird, maybe that might help you to complete it.
Okay, fourth one is very simple. Fourth one is don't remember Krishna and doesn't remember Krishna. What happens to this person? Nature. Yeah? The fourth one is very simple. But this one, again, there is a bit of a question mark here.
It's not possible. If your whole life has not remembered God, there is
Yeah.
no way you think of God. You think of going to pizza, wherever you
Yeah.
have spent that time.
But there is sometimes this can happen. But the thing is, most likely you don't go there. You remain here. But because you have remembered Krishna somehow, there is some small credit. Now, if Krishna takes him back home, back to Godhead, this person will not fit there because his entire existence is not yet purified. He is not yet purified. So even though he might have remembered Krishna at the end, that will give him some credit to get a better life where he can progress from there. Because no matter how little or how much you remember God's name, that is an asset, that is a spiritual asset that continues throughout your next journey in another life. But if this person goes back to Godhead, he will not fit because his material desires are still there. He is not yet completely purified himself. So this is a very rare case. Okay, this is very rare. Is right, but it can happen.
Also talks something about remembered Krishna and then also remembered other stuff like he was like
Yeah. So even then, that means that they are here. One of them are here, but still, because they have cultivated remembrance of Krishna during the whole life, here they can remember him. But even here, if they don't remember it, again, Krishna does say, "I remember that person," and so he comes back to me. Right? Okay. They say that when you're about to die, it's like your whole life is like a 2 minute or a 2 second life flashback you get. And so if you have remembered Krishna in your entire life, what is your entire flashback going to be full of? Krishna consciousness. So naturally, and Krishna says that when in the flashback there comes a time when he's doing Krishna consciousness, that time I take him out. So that time he's remembering me at that time. So Krishna gives that sort of reassurance. Okay? So Krishna refutes in 8.7. He says, what does he say? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha mai apita mano buddhi mam evashyasi ashamshaya. So the two words here that I want to highlight is mano buddhi. Okay? Mano means what? Mind. Buddhi means intelligence. So does anyone want to read the translation for 8.7?
Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of life. If your activity is dedicated to me, and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt.
Right. So we need both the mind and the intelligence. Alright. So why do we need both? So what does the mind do? The mind focuses on what feels good. But the intelligence focuses on what is good. Okay? This is what the mind and the intelligence does. Mind, what feels good. Intelligence is what is good. Now, this is the difference between the godly people and the ungodly people. Okay? In the godly people, what feels good is Krishna consciousness. And what is good is Krishna consciousness. So there is no difference between the two. There's shortest distance there. Here, what is good? We know it's Krishna consciousness. What do they feel good? What feels good? Material life. So this is greatest distance. Okay? There is a greatest distance there. So the demonic people or the ungodly people, their minds value the material world more. And so they remain stuck here. While the godly people, they know that what is more valuable and what actually, as they've developed that attachment to that. So then they transcend that material world to go to the spiritual world. Okay? Now, this is a very interesting point that I want to make here. So earlier in the Gita, in chapter 3 point and text 30, Krishna says that you do your work and then offer your fruits to me. So that means the offering comes after doing the work. So there are three things. There is the intention, there is the action, and then there's the result. In 3.30, Krishna says that, okay, do the intention, you do your action, but then the result, you give it to Krishna. Okay? This is what he's saying in 3.30. Look at here. 8.7. Look at the second line. Mam anusmara yudhyacha. So yudhyacha is action. But what comes before that? Anusmara. So from here only you think of Krishna. So automatically your actions will be for Krishna, and then automatically your results are already for Krishna. So in Karma Yoga, it was the post action offering that is given, but in Bhakti Yoga, what is it? It is the pre-action meditation. This is a difference between Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Karma Yoga will give to Krishna after the fact, but in Bhakti Yoga, you're starting from Krishna. So then the entire link is already 100% fully focused on Krishna. If you love somebody, you will do everything that you do first thinking about what that person likes. Yeah? You don't say, okay, I love this person, but I also love having this. So I will have this first and then I'll offer this to this person. But in Bhakti Yoga, I love this person, I know this person loves this and this stuff, so let me make this and this stuff for that person. Which is more potent? The second one, right? So the mind and intelligence will be offered to me, and when you do this in your life, you're actually living to develop love for Krishna. When you're actually starting from this point, that means that you're valuing that loving relationship more. Yeah, as you just said, what is a greater show of love? It's more of this than this. Okay? So, my question to you is, out of these two, mind and intelligence, which is more important to focus on? Intelligence.
No, like you mean focus.
Mind is more challenging, so
You mean
give it
focus.
more.
To focus on.
Oh, that's the mind. That's the intelligence.
Hmm. Huh? Okay.
Is it intelligence?
What do you guys think?
Intelligence, because intelligence controls, if the intelligence is strong, your mind automatically gets focused.
Does this work all the time? Sometimes.
But can you control your mind?
Hmm.
Even Arjuna says, I can control the wind, but I can't control the mind.
Control your mind.
Hmm.
What is the question again?
Of the two, mind or intellect, which is more important to focus on?
Yes, that's right.
Because
Okay, intelligence.
Again, what's the question? You're trying to control what?
What is more? No, what is more important?
What is more important?
Mind or intelligence? What is more important to focus on?
it's mine because the intelligence is very yeah.
Are we get there?
I think, but for what purpose? You're trying to focus on one of the two, but for what purpose?
For the purpose of focusing on the goal. Okay, the actual answer is mind. The mind is actually fickle, and therefore it is necessary to engage the mind by force with intelligence to think of Krishna. The mind is like an endless depository of impressions. Like when there is a significant trauma, and we said this word before, it's like a life quake. Our minds will dive deep into the depths of stored impressions. So there was this very interesting story that happened. This is a true story that happened in World War II. In World War II, there was a German spy that infiltrated the British base and British headquarters. And the high-ranking officials or commissioners or generals were quite scared because we don't know who this person is. How are we supposed to find out who this person is? So there's this one person who really thought about it, and he said that there's only one way we can root this spy out. They said what it is. They said, okay, gather all the stuff, and we'll interview them one by one. And they said, okay, why are we doing this? He said, we'll interview them one by one, and then in the duration of our questioning, we will slam their fingers with a stick or something, or give them a significant trauma. Because what happens when people face trauma when they're not expecting it? What happens? Yeah. Yes. That person will automatically, the mind will automatically go to where it found the greatest shelter. Right? And so when they did that, this spy went inside, and then he got a hit, and the first thing that came out from his mouth was the word mother in German. In German. And so they're like, this is the one. So imagine, this is how strong our mind is when our mind has got so many impressions. Yeah? And there's a trauma. The most deep-rooted impressions come out because we are trying to search for that place which gives us the greatest shelter. So, even in the 6th chapter, Krishna had highlighted to Arjuna that the mind can be controlled by constant practice and determination. And what is this constant practice? It is a constant chanting of the Maha Mantra, which is filling our minds with impressions of Krishna, so that when death comes and then our mind is not in control, the automatic response is Krishna. Because death is very, very tough. It is said that death is a very traumatic experience. In that moment, you are not in control of many things in your body. You are like a slave to the pains. So at that time, when your mind is not in your control, then you have to saturate your mind with so many impressions of Krishna consciousness that when a traumatic experience comes out, your automatic response is what? Is to think of Krishna. Yeah? So they said, like, for example, have you seen a coconut? Now in India, and especially in South India, what they do is when there's a coconut and there's a malai inside the coconut, they remove the entire malai from inside the coconut very easily. They don't have to, make those sticks and then kotar, like how they do, like digging. So how do they do that? So when the coconut is still there, they keep on rattling it. They rattle. They rattle and they hit it from the outside. So what is happening is when they're hitting it from the outside, the shell, the malai is getting detached from the skin of that coconut. And so when they keep on rattling, then it's coming out, and then when they cut it open, it's very easily scooped out. Right? So we need to constantly rattle the coconut. The coconut is our body. We need to constantly rattle our body with the names of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The more we rattle, the more we hit our body and our consciousness with the names of Krishna, the more easily we get detached, and so easier it is for it to come out of the body. Okay, and in Srila Prabhupada in 8.8 in the purport, he gives another example that there's a caterpillar. He is constantly thinking of the time when it will become a butterfly, and so it is transformed into a butterfly in the same lifetime. Just by constantly meditating, I want to become a butterfly, a caterpillar will automatically become a butterfly, right? So, the question is, how should one cultivate the remembrance of Krishna? So, let's go to the next part. A, meaning attaining the supreme. So, one cultivates remembrance by practicing yoga. Yeah? So, in chapter 6, the focus was on the super soul meditation, meditating on the super soul within, which is the meditation on the Paramatma feature of the absolute truth. For such meditators, Krishna will describe how to remember him from 8.9 to 8.13. And at the end of chapter 6, Krishna said that the focus was on bhakti, that the highest yogi is a bhakti yogi, and they meditate on the Bhagwan feature of the absolute truth. And for such meditators, Krishna describes how to remember him in 8.14. So Krishna says that one who is successful in the practice of yoga attains the spiritual planets and himself. And he urges us to leave the material world behind and join him in the spiritual world. Now, for somebody to get another person to do something, what are the motivations? What are the types of motivation you can have?
You can do it.
What are the two main types of motivations one person can have?
Gift.
A gift. Okay, so gift is what? Huh? Reward. But okay. But gift itself is like, is a good feeling, bad feeling. Yeah. So there's positive and negative. Okay. I want to get an A star in my next exam. Why? Because I'll get a slap from my parents, or because I want to come first in class. Yeah, I'll get fame. I'll get praise. I'll get stuff like that. Two different motivations, but for one thing. The people do stuff out of fear of negative or out of a positive motivation, right? So even Krishna here, he tells us to come to him, to the spiritual planets and to himself. And he gives two ways why you should do it and what happens if you don't do it. Okay? So, this one will focus from 8:20 to 8:22. And here it will focus from 8:15 to 8:19. Okay? So, does anyone want to read 8.15?
after attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection.
Okay. So in the Sanskrit of that 8.15, you see these two words, Dukhalayam, Ashwashvatam. Dukhalayam, Dukha means what? Pain, misery. So an ayam means place. So Dukhalayam, like how we have Bhojanalayam, Vidyalayam. So these are all places. So Dukhalayam is a place of miseries. And Ashwashvata means what? It means temporary. Okay? So this is what Krishna has rubber stamped this material world as being. It is a Dukhalayam Ashwashvatam, meaning it is a place of miseries and it is temporary. Okay? How many of you feel that this is true? Yes, no? Here, I think Amangulila Prabhu said it really nice. Krishna says it's Dukhalayam, but then people say, no, Krishna, you're wrong. There's Sukhalayam. There's so much happiness here in the world. It's Sukhalayam. But Krishna said, no, it's Dukhalayam. What are you saying? I'm the one who created it. I know. It's Dukhalayam. But a person like, oh, it's Sukhalayam. There's so much happiness here. Okay, you have to stick with the word Sukhalayam. I'll just add an H. Is Shukhalayam. There is very little pleasure here. Very little. Very fleeting pleasure here. And that is why it becomes, it's temporary. It's not permanent happiness. Even if you say it's happiness here, but then the next word defeats it. Because we want eternal happiness. But this place is a place of temporariness. Okay? So, many commentators have taken different shloks of the Gita and emphasizes. 8.15 is a shlok that Prabhupada really emphasized on. He emphasized this verse to hammer his point that there is actually no ultimate plan that we can do to find eternal happiness here. Because Krishna himself, the designer, has said that this place is Dukhalayam Ashwashvatam. Now there was this very famous author by the name of C.S. Lewis. He said that if I find in myself a desire that no experience can satisfy in this world, the conclusion is that I was made for another world. So everyone has a desire to be happy, but if everyone feels distressed, then is it not logical to think that surely there must be a creation in which that desire can be fulfilled? And yes, there is. That is the spiritual world. Yeah? So there's something known as cognitive dissonance. Does anyone know the meaning of this? What is cognitive dissonance? Okay. What does dissonance mean? Anyone know what does dissonance mean? It means something that cannot be reconciled. And cognitive is mental ability. So cognitive dissonance means that there are two things, but your mind cannot equate the two. For example, if I tell you that this so-and-so person is a very rude person, he's really rude and everything, but then your experience of that person is that this person is a very polite person. So you're saying he's rude, but my experience is telling me that this person is actually a very nice person. So there's a cognitive dissonance. Who to believe? Believe my own experience, or should I believe what I am saying? Right? You cannot reconcile the two things. So what is the cognitive dissonance here? Material culture, material propaganda, materialism. What are they promoting? That life is wonderful. Life is absolutely wonderful. But in our experience, do we find life to be always wonderful? the common thing is we all find life to be tough. Yeah, life is not always easy. It's not always wonderful. Yeah. So on one side, the propaganda is saying that life is wonderful, but our experience of material life is that at the very basic, it is not always wonderful, and on a more general level, life is tough. Yeah. Yes or no? How many of you feel this way? Yeah. So there's a cognitive dissonance between the way the material world is pushing us to believe the world is like, and what our experience of the world is like. Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada had always said that one should do dukkha darshana in this material world as an impetus to turn toward Krishna, who is the supreme shelter. And the analogy that he gives is that think of a fish out of the water. What is the option for that fish? Does he make himself comfortable on land? Or does he adjust himself? Okay, now I'm out of the water, let me adjust here. I can try and adjust here. Is that right thinking? That's the optimistic or the pessimistic view of it. That okay, I'm out of the water, there's no point now staying here, I'll just die. Or I try to adjust myself on land. That's optimistic, but ultimately he will end in frustration and he will die. What is the most realistic option for that fish? Is to go back into the water, back to where it belongs. So Prabhupada uses the analogy of the fish. Don't be like a fish that tries to adjust in the land. You go back to where you're supposed to belong. You go back to the spiritual world. So now Krishna gives a ray of hope by comparing the spiritual world and the material world. So what does he say? The material world and the spiritual world. The material world is full of misery, means dukhalayam, and it's temporary, ashwashatam. Complete opposite is the spiritual world. If it's full of misery here, it's full of bliss there. It's temporary here, it's eternal there. The material world is repeatedly annihilated, created and annihilated, created and annihilated. Again, this is the extension of temporary. And spiritual world, because it's eternal, it never goes through the cycles of creation and destruction. And in the return world, there is return ticket. If you move out of here, if you don't get enough credit to go there, you are moving here. There's always return ticket. But here, it's a one-way ticket only. Once you have come out, that's it. That's it. Because you have understood that this is nothing worth coming back to. You know, if you go to like a show or you go to a thing, and it was the most useless amount of money that you spent in your life. No matter how many times that person is going to do a show in that future, you will be like, I don't want to go there because it was such a horrible place to go to. So even if you experience it one time and it's such a horrendous experience, you don't want to return there. And so that is why it's a one-way ticket only, because you don't want to go back to the material world. Okay? The last D stands for devotion. So we know that consciousness at the time of death determines the next destination. So, let's try and relearn the alphabet. Okay, what is the letter between B and D? C. So between birth and death, there is C. What does this C stand for? Huh? It's right there. And consciousness determines our the way we train our consciousness, that the consciousness will determine the choices we make in life. So in the journey between birth and death, if we can cultivate or turn material consciousness to spiritual consciousness, then our choices go from a material choices in life to spiritual choices in life. And then what happens after death? So you do E, meaning you escape from the. Yes. Thank you. Here, so this is what happens from the cycle of birth and death. If we make our consciousness spiritual, then we can get out of here, we can escape from here. Okay? So to become fully Krishna conscious is a foolproof way to go to the spiritual world. So Krishna describes in this part of the chapter how practitioners of different yoga paths deal with death. Krishna says that how the karmis, jnanis and yogis depart the world from 23 to 26 and the technicalities of dying at the opportune moment. But for a bhakta, he says in 27 to 28 that all these technicalities are inconsequential. Why? Because your consciousness is already saturated with Krishna. These people have not yet saturated their consciousness with Krishna. That's why they need to control how they die. But for devotees, doesn't matter because their consciousness is already fully into Krishna. So for them, the technicalities of dying at the opportune moment doesn't matter. It's inconsequential. And therefore, this establishes the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga, path for awakening full Krishna consciousness. Okay? Now, how to face death? Ooh. Very heavy one, right? Now, Prabhupada was asked this question. Why is the mortality in India so high? And you know what Prabhupada said? I don't understand your question. The death rate is same everywhere. It's 100%. It's not just high in India, it's high everywhere. It's 100% everywhere. So, now, how to face death? We have to look and find inspiration from people who have conquered death in the most gracious way possible. And actually, our Vedas, Srimad Bhagavatam, they're full of stories of how great personalities have left the material world. Their final lesson reminds us how to prepare for death with grace, detachment, and spiritual consciousness. So Prabhupada used to say that when he was there, there was this book called The Art of Living. There used to be a really famous book called The Art of Living. And he says that Gita is a book of the art of dying. You learn how to die in this world. If you can die well, that means that's it. You've finished all your nonsense here in this material world. And you go back home, back to Godhead. Okay? Now, what are the different approaches to death by the materialist and the spiritualist? Now, to convey this dramatic difference in approach to death, there was a Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharya by the name of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And you know what he compares death to? He compares death to a wedding. What do you mean? How is death like a wedding? So he says that there are two types of marriages. There is a love marriage and then there is a arranged marriage. Now for the bride, if it is an arranged marriage, she doesn't know where she's going to go because the groom is new or very little interaction. So going away from home is a traumatic experience for her because she's like, I don't know where I'm going. But if it is a love marriage, the bride already knows the groom, already has a romantic, loving relationship with the groom. So for her, living home is not going to be as traumatic as it would have been for a bride in an arranged marriage. So he says that we are like the bride and Krishna is our groom. We need to learn to love Krishna. And when we love Krishna, then we won't feel that we're living behind our home. We are more happy to go there because that's where our love is. But for an arranged person, like, okay, I have to marry this person, I have to go to this place now, I have to go to that place now. In this body, that next body, I don't know which body, which parents I'll get, I don't know which sort of situation I'll be in. Right now I'm enjoying in this place, next time I get born in a slum, I don't know. Or sometimes I might get born in a palace, I don't know. So that uncertainty. Yeah? So death, if it is viewed as a motivator, it can help us in many ways. First of all, it acts as a priority. It makes us prioritize spiritual assets which will help us even after death. No amount of money that we have accumulated is going to come with us after death. What does come after death is the impressions that we have in our mind And those impressions, if you can cultivate spiritual impressions, that actually makes you go into a family that is more spiritual, and that will help you guide your journey back to God in your next life. Okay? That is why Krishna says that no matter if whatever yoga path you take, there is no diminution. There is always progress. Nothing is lost. This is why Krishna says that nothing is lost, because it is all there in your consciousness, and consciousness goes with you from this body to the next body. Yeah. U stands for urgency. It can come any day, so why not prepare from today, right? H is for humility. We realize that there is so much not in our control, and so we become humble. There's clarity. Though temporality, we learn to appreciate everyone and everything. Immunity. Being fearless of death immunizes us from all other fears. Steve Jobs said this very nice quote in his one of the graduation speeches, that death is one of the strongest motivators for him to do things in life, because you're already naked. So there's no fear of failure, because at the end of your life you're anyway going to die. So might as well make something worthwhile of your life. So death can be a motivator. Opportunity. Death is a portal to enter the spiritual world, to take us back to our eternal home and live blissfully with Krishna. So this ends our session today. If you look at the summary for yourself, and hopefully it summarizes the entire chapter. So thank you everyone for paying attention. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.